Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Toni and I'm a homeschooling mom to 4 kids. And I want to give you some tips today about how to prepare for choosing curriculum for next year and how to prepare for going to a homeschool convention. So if you want to hear about my little tips and tricks about getting prepared and getting ready for next year, then stay tuned. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to tell you, hands down, you need to go to a homeschool convention. If you have never been, I promise you, you need to go. The first time I ever went to a homeschool convention was when I knew I wanted to homeschool. My husband wasn't quite on board, and so we went together, and I told him, you know, I want you to go and see that these are normal people, and that this was like years ago. This was like 7 years ago. I feel like even since then, things have become, homeschooling is just normal. It's just totally fine and accepted. It's not weird, which is pretty awesome. We didn't know a lot of homeschoolers growing up, and the ones we did, I don't know. We judged, and we shouldn't have. But going to a homeschool convention, first of all, if you're on the fence, it really is pretty awesome to be able to go and see all these other families that are just like you. For my husband to be able to see there were other dads just like him. They have a lot of sessions that they offer at homeschool conventions that can be anywhere from things directed directly towards dads, which for my husband, right in the beginning, they talked about like HSLDA. If you don't know what that is, that's like Homeschooling Legal Defense Association. So they had sessions about that, the rules and laws for the particular state that you live in, which is super helpful. So all that stuff that my husband wanted to know, he wanted to know what was required of us and all this stuff and how this works, and what you have to do legally and things like that. They had all kinds of amazing sessions like that for my husband. So that was really great and really helpful and eye-opening for him. And I will say that after that convention, he was on board, which was awesome. And he's been totally supportive ever since then. So if your husband is on the fence, or if you're not quite sure, I would totally recommend going to a homeschool convention and just testing the waters and seeing what's out there. Now, it depends convention to convention what kind of sessions are offered. Like when I first went to my first one a long time ago, they had sessions that you could go to that actually would talk about a certain curriculum. So like I went to one that was a My Father's World class, and it talked about that curriculum, and it was promoting that curriculum. And like when I was starting fresh, I knew nothing. I didn't know what curriculum was good. I didn't even know what my options were. So it was really helpful to be able to go see different sessions that talked about that. Now, some conventions may not specifically target certain curriculums and things like that, but you'll have sessions where it talks about anything from like teaching your child to read. They have sessions for parents that have children with learning disabilities and how to best teach them and help them. I mean, there's just everything. It's a wide range of things. So super helpful. If you have never been to a homeschool convention, you need to go. For me, it's something, ever since I went that first year, I've gone every single year except for last year because everything got shut down last year, which was really sad. That was the first time I didn't get to go to a convention in 7 years. So another huge thing for me, and the reason why I always try to go to homeschool conventions, is because it's a weekend away. I don't get away from my family, from my kids at all. Like, you know, even when we go on vacation and things like that, obviously everybody goes. But this is my one time a year that I get to go away, and it's just me. And I've gone with friends before. I've gone by myself before. When we didn't have money to stay overnight in a hotel and there was a convention that was close enough, I just drove. I think I carpooled with a friend, so I wasn't driving by myself. You don't have to stay overnight, but you can, and it's amazing. I think for me, at least, it's something that's worth saving up for. We live pretty tight the few months up to convention, just making sure we're ready for paying for the hotel. That's a lot of times where I'll get a lot of my curriculum and just having money for food and gas and all that stuff. So it's worth the sacrifice for me to be able to have that time alone, to have that time to just refresh. When you're with your kids 24/7 and you're teaching, your mom, your drill sergeant, your, you know, everything, your manager, everything that you need to be as mom, it can be hard, and just that 1 or 2 or 3 nights away just to like miss everybody. It's huge. It really makes a big difference for me, it makes me come back and just really miss everybody. And I think it's nice. It's really something that I would put it up there with a need. I'm sure it's, it's more of a want, but for my emotional health and just the keeping the joy in homeschooling, I need that time away. So my husband's been very gracious and understands that that's something that I need, that if we can afford it and work it out, he makes sure that it can happen. So it's awesome. And I appreciate that he does that for me. So if you can find a homeschooling convention in your area, the one we go to is called Teach Them Diligently. But I know there's a great homeschool convention. I don't know all of them. I'm sure there's a ton of other different names and different things for your states, but there are some really great ones out there. Obviously there's secular conventions that have more wide variety of curriculum and things like that. And then there's Christian ones. So keep your eye out for that and deciding what is important for you. The Christian, like the Teach Them Diligently homeschool convention that we always go to, I mean, it's based on God and making sure God is number one. You're teaching them diligently. That's a Bible verse in the Bible. But there's a big difference between what you're going to get at a secular homeschool convention and what you're going to get at a Christian one. Obviously, you're just going to have a different focus. I don't think I don't think you're going to get anything bad at a secular convention. But if you are a Christian homeschooler and you want to make sure, there's prayer in your, we even sing songs, that we always have praise music. There's a mom's night. There's all kinds of stuff. For me, I would definitely want to go to a Christian one, but there's nothing wrong with the other ones probably either. You're still going to get to see a lot of curriculum. So that brings me to number 2. The second reason why I go is to see all the curriculum. So when you're just looking online and trying to figure out what curriculum you want to use for next year, for me, it's really hard not actually seeing it, not holding the book in my hand and seeing what it really looks like. That's really, really hard. I really need to see stuff in person. And so this is a huge thing for me to be able to go. They have it depends on how big your convention is. There's some conventions that are smaller and still have probably a lot of curriculum in it's like a big exhibit hall, and they've got all these booths set up, and there's everything from different curriculums to colleges come, which is kind of nice when you get to that age. They always have usually it's Christian colleges for the conventions we go to, but they have colleges set up where you could find out information about colleges. There's all kinds of stuff. There's usually oils, Young Living, and different things like that. So it's a big variety, but there's a lot of curriculum. So it's really great. Even if you're not going to buy your curriculum at the convention, it's still great if you're someone who likes to see it in person. This is huge. So that's one reason I like to go. I love looking at all the different curriculum and just seeing it in person. And you get to talk to representatives from that company, which is helpful. I discovered IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing, 2 years ago at a convention. I think I'd probably heard of it, but I had never used it. I didn't really know anybody close to me that had used it. And actually a friend of a friend that was at the convention started talking to me about it and was sold me. She didn't even work for the booth, but she should have. But she was just telling me exactly how the curriculum works. We walked over to the booth and she opened stuff up and showed me the books, and it was awesome. I did not buy at the convention because I only had a certain budget and I hadn't budgeted that in. But I switched our curriculum that year just because of going to the convention and hearing about a curriculum that I had never had experience with. So you may find out about stuff that you don't know about yet and you've never thought about using that may be perfect for your family. So that was really, really cool, and it was a great thing for us to use that year. So seeing curriculum is just really great and such a huge perk. I will warn you though, it can be majorly overwhelming. Majorly overwhelming. The first year that we went, like I said, I had never used any curriculum. I knew nothing about homeschooling. I had no clue what I was doing. I walk into this room full of, I don't know, it felt like hundreds and thousands of, it probably wasn't that many. I have no idea how many booths were in there, but all these booths of all these different curriculum. And I felt like I was this big and I had no clue what I was doing. So my husband and I walked around. It was very intimidating and very overwhelming. And we ended up buying one of the first ones that we walked around some, but one of the first representatives from a company that came up and approached us and talked to us, That was the one that we bought. And it wasn't just like, oh yeah, let's buy it. He made it sound really good and it sounded great. It was all like packaged in a nice little package. And I knew nothing about homeschool. So it was an affordable curriculum. So we went with it and we were happy with it. But when I went a few years later, I realized you really need to do research before you go. Unless you know exactly what you're going to be using, you really need to research. So I'm going to show you something that I do before I go to homeschool convention. I've done a couple different ways. This is one thing. This is my dot journal. I have done a video on this before. This has, it's just a blank dot journal notebook that I have it's like got my everything in it. It's got my chores, and anyway, there's a video on it. If you guys want to watch that, I'll link that below. But this has all my notes and just everything I keep in here. So on a regular, just plain section and piece of paper, I wrote down all the curriculum ideas for 2021. So this is nothing super fancy, but I've got all the subjects down here on this side. I've got each of my kids, and I left enough spaces that as the stuff that I know we're going to be using, I went ahead and wrote that in because I know I'm not going to be changing language. I'm not sure what I'm doing for language for my little guy yet. I haven't totally decided, but those, I know what we're going to be doing. I know what we're going to be doing for history, and there's a couple other things, but then some of these I just had ideas, so I just wrote them in so that I just know what I want to research, how I want to do this. So it doesn't have to be fancy. I did put pretty washi tape on here just because it was pretty, but you don't have to do that. Now, another way that I've done this, and it's funny because I made this like maybe a month ago when I started thinking about this and thinking about our curriculum for next year, and then I forgot that I'd made that. So then I made this a couple weeks ago, and this is just a curriculum map. This is just a different way of doing it. And so I filled this out, and then I realized I had already started one, so whatever. Now I get to show you guys two different ways of doing this. So I just thought this was cute. This is a fun thing that I saw on a YouTube video many years ago, and I thought it was super fun. So you just put your kids' names at the top, and you draw a little box for each of the names. There's not straight lines, so it's not the best, but it works. And then if you can see, I have the subjects on the side here. So all the subjects are here, and I just write in, if I know what we're using for math, I know we're going to be sticking with Matthew C, so I put that in there. And actually my little guy, I might be changing. I'm not sure if I'm using Matthew C or Christian Light, but I go ahead and write in what I know we're going to be using. Then I've got this page over here where I'm just writing down some things that I want to look up. So I've got Bible. I'm not really sure what we're going to be doing for Bible next year. This year we didn't use an actual curriculum, but next year I'm thinking about actually getting a curriculum. So I've got a couple ideas there that I want to look into. Science, I have a couple things that I've been looking into because I'm not sure what we're doing for science. Anyway, I wrote down then electives because my daughter's going to be in 7th grade. I feel like I need to add some more stuff. So I've got some electives here that I want to think about looking into too. So just having this written down, this is just the start of researching. So you can do this however you want to do this. But if you write everybody down, you write down what you know you're doing, what you know you're sticking with. For me, if I have it on a piece of paper, then when I walk into a big room full of all these pretty, shiny, colorful, different curriculums, I'm not gonna be like, ooh, that math looks good. No, I know that Matthew C is working for my 3 girls. That's what we're gonna stick with. Don't buy the shiny thing. So this just helps me kind of stay on track. Now, there will be some things that'll be blank. Like I might not decide on Bible and what we're going to use for Bible until I get to the convention. And that's fine. So I may just have some ideas in here of what I want to do for Bible, but I don't have it nailed down. So it's just really helpful if you have this stuff, if you have your ideas written down, research your stuff then. Then once you have, this is just like the starting point. And then I would recommend, I've talked about this on some of my other videos, kathyduffy.com. She has just a really cool website where you can look up different things. If you don't know, like this year, I'm not really sure what we're doing for science because I have a 7th grader, or I have a daughter going into 7th grade. I want to see what's out there and see, I'm not sure if we're going to keep family style or if I need to have her do something on her own. I'm not sure. So that's what we're going to figure out. But I went on Kathy Duffy and I just pulled up her science so that I can see all the science options that are out there. So it's really helpful because there might be one that you're like, well, I've never heard of that. And then you can click on it and she gives you a little description. And then you can go on your rabbit trail from there. You can go look up YouTube videos on it, or you can go on their specific website and see what it's like. See if it's at your homeschool convention, if you're going to be going. So that's when I pull up the exhibitor list at my homeschool convention, and it'll have from A to Z everybody that's going to be going. So that's just a good website to be able to go on and see what options you have for particular subjects that maybe you're not sure what's out there, or if you're starting from scratch, go on there and just see what looks appealing. You can look at unit studies, you can look at all-in-one curriculums, you can look at just specific subjects, you can look by grade. Kathy Duffy's website is really great just for a good starting point. And then from there, keep doing your research and find out what you want. That's my recommendation, is just do your research, see what is going to work for you, knock out what's totally not going to work for you. If you know you don't want, unit studies, then there's a handful of curriculums that you don't even need to look at. Now, when you go to the convention, you can still look at the stuff and look through it. But for me, I have to have in my mind a list of things. Otherwise, I'd come home with everything. I would buy everything because, this looked good. And there have been times where I have bought stuff, even used, because it was such a good deal. Like I've gone to like a homeschool curriculum sale, like a used curriculum sale. And in the beginning, many years ago, it was like, well, that's $1, or that's only 25 cents, or that's free, or something like that. And I would come home with all this stuff, and then I don't really end up using it, and you're just cluttering up your schoolroom space. So just be careful, whether it's free or used, or whether you're going to a convention and buying new. It's just have a plan. I'm not like a major planner in life. I'm pretty spontaneous, but when it comes to homeschool, I have learned over the years, I've got to have a plan. I have to have, now I don't always stick to my plan. Like I said, I went in there thinking I was using, I think that year was Christian Light Education, and IEW just sounded perfect. Before I bought it, I went back to my hotel room that night. I probably spent an hour and a half on my phone researching IEW and finding out different reviews and stuff. And go on those Facebook groups. There's so many Facebook groups, whether they're just general like Christian homeschool moms, or general Facebook groups like that, or they're specific, like I'm in the Good and the Beautiful Facebook group where you can ask questions about that specific curriculum, or Biblioplan. They have a specific Facebook group, stuff like that. So go in those Facebook groups, ask. That's really hard to say. Ask those homeschool moms that have experience with these curriculums to see how it works. With Heart of Dakota, that's one of those curriculums that I love. I want to make it work so bad with my family, but it's really hard in where we're at right now in life. I can't do 4 different guides. I want to make it work. I started thinking about it and deciding, is this something I can make work again? I just don't think I can do it right now. But I was able to answer that question by asking a Facebook group. It was called like Heart of Dakota for Big Families or something. And a lot of moms are struggling with the same thing. And I realized, okay, I'm going to put that on the shelf right now. We might pull that back down at some point down the road. But right now, it's just not going to work for us. Anyway, do your research. My last thing, this probably should have been my first thing. It obviously should have been my first thing, but pray about it. I do pray about my decisions. I pray for wisdom. I pray that God will help me pick the right curriculum for my kids. I don't think you could really go wrong. Whatever you pick, some things may not be as good of a fit for your family. If your heart is in it, you're going to be teaching your kids, you're going to do fine, and it's just a year. You can always switch another year if you need to, but I do think it's really important, if you're a believer, it's important to pray about it, just to make sure you're not just doing what looks fun, or you're doing what you think works. God really is pretty awesome that he'll help you and he'll answer you on things like this that are even homeschool curriculum. It may sound to some people like, well, that's a silly thing to pray about. It's not. I mean, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that you're putting into. It's time. It's the next year of your life. And if you just decide to do what you want and you don't pray about it, and you end up with something that's a total flop and a bad fit for your family, you're going to wish you prayed about it. So that's the first thing I do. I have already started praying about this, and just pray that God will give me wisdom to make the right decisions and to choose the right stuff that's just best for my kids. So that definitely should be number one. So I hope this was helpful. I really love homeschool conventions. If you can't tell, I like absolutely love it. I am so excited. I'm going in just a couple weeks, and I'm hoping to do a video if I'm brave enough to walk around with my camera. I'm hoping to do a video, and I'll give you guys a glimpse at what the exhibit hall looks like, and maybe even in some of the sessions, and kind of give you an idea of what a homeschool convention looks like. It's going to be fun. It's going to be super awesome, and I just can't wait. So if you have a chance, check out the homeschool conventions in your area. I know some are not happening this year. I actually have to drive about 5 hours to get to the one we're going to this year, but I'm carpooling with some friends, and it'll be super fun, and I'm just excited. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any tips on homeschool conventions. Have you gone to any before? And let me know in the comments. What do? Do you prepare ahead of time, or do you just go by what's shiny and looks good, or do you switch things up? So I'm just curious how everybody else does it. This is how I do it. This may not work for everybody, but it has worked for me, and I've gone to probably 6 or 7 probably 6 homeschool conventions since last year didn't happen. So I'm not an expert, but I am seasoned, I guess. I've been to a lot of homeschool conventions. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys get a chance to go to one, and let me know if you get to go to one this year. Let me know how it goes. I'm really excited. And I told you guys I'm looking into science. Leave a comment in the comments below if you have a recommendation for science that you love, especially for 7th grade is what I'm looking for. So I'd love some tips on that, because I'm kind of just getting into those waters right now, so we'll see. Well, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.